Okay, I don't want to make this video too long because I'll be making another video about the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air really soon. But I've been rewatching on HBO Max via 6 different email accounts for free trials, but I digress. Anyway, I came up on that episode. Season 4, episode 24, Papa's Got a Brand New Excuse, otherwise known as the episode with Will's dad. As a kid, this was the first piece of media I ever watched that made me cry. There's just so much raw emotion on display here, in the writing to the acting to everything. I love it. I may even call it my favorite episode of any TV show ever. I've been seeing all sorts of media I love, like Avatar, Star Wars, Spider-Man, get this deep analytical treatment by awesome creators, but I haven't really seen much on one of the most influential shows of my childhood. So today I'm going to dive into that episode of The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. So I took some notes on the dialogue used in the episode, but I didn't write down the actual lines themselves. When I tell you I can pretty much tell you every line in that episode based on my notes, I'm telling the truth. Everybody loves to talk about how poignant Will's "How Come You Don't Want Me, Man" speech is, and rightfully so. Makes me tear up every time. However, just a few minutes earlier in the episode, Uncle Phil says a line that always hits me the hardest. In the kitchen, an argument breaks out about Will going with Lou for the summer to tour the country. Uncle Phil screams, "Wake up, Will. This is the same man who didn't think enough of you to pick up the damn phone." Holy shit, that hurts. And when you hear Will's response back, "He made a mistake. I'm sorry not everybody can be as perfect as you, Uncle Phil." You can tell how delusional Will is, but can you really blame him? A few episodes earlier, Will vocalizes how much his absent father hurts him for the first time. Uncle Phil suffers a heart attack and winds up in the hospital. Carlton refuses to visit him because it makes him grapple with an uncomfortable truth. His father won't always be there. Will tries to convince Carlton to visit Uncle Phil with the following dialogue. "Do you know where my father is?" "No." "Me neither." At his core, Will still is that 5-year-old kid asking his mom when Daddy's coming home. And how appropriate they gave this conversation to Carlton. He worships his father like a god. This is the first time that he confronts the fact that Uncle Phil is just a man. Meanwhile, Will's understood this his whole life. That's not my favorite line. Sorry. My favorite line actually comes at the end of the argument, where Will and Uncle Phil continue battling it out. Uncle Phil tries to exert authority over Will as he normally would. And Uncle Phil goes, "I don't think so," in response to Will asserting he intends to take the trip. And Will answers back in a heartbreaking cry, "Who cares what you think? You are not my father." Every single time I hear that, it makes me cry, without fail. Uncle Phil has done everything for Will. He is his father in all facets that matter. But Will is just too blinded to see it. All around, it's the best dialogue from the show that I've ever heard. Aaron Sorkin likes to say that dialogue doesn't just sound like music, but that it is music to him. I never really understood that. Then I watched this episode again and it made sense. There's natural rhythm and there's art in every letter of it, evidenced by the sharp words, the cutting delivery, the beautiful pauses. Everything comes together to create this beautiful emotional symphony. But the best dialogue in the world doesn't mean shit if you don't have talented actors who can pull it off. I'm not really too knowledgeable of acting, but I'm going to try my best to describe why I love these performances in this episode. Who would have thought The Fresh Prince, a rapper being attacked by the IRS, actually held such deep acting talents? I mean, we get to see glimpses of it in earlier episodes, but never like this. This is peak Will Smith. I mean, we wouldn't get anything matching it until The Pursuit of Happiness. The other standout is James Avery. Now, first things first, rest in peace, Uncle Phil. For real. But is there anything I can really say about him that hasn't been said before? To praise James Avery in his role of Uncle Phil almost feels cliche. I mean, he was so good. I can't even call the character Philip. I need to refer to him as Uncle Phil because he's just that real to me. The man's just got talent like I've never seen. His delivery of the dialogue is fantastic, but just pay attention to every face he makes. There's so much there. He's in pain, he's scared, he's even insecure. Phil doesn't want to see his son get hurt by somebody he should be able to trust. And his tension with Lou is fantastic. Every time Uncle Phil gets angry or starts to puff out his chest like a bear ready to defend his cub, Lou chooses flight instead of fight. He does this until the final confrontation, where Lou tries to run the same game he's been running on Will, using his charm and humor to disarm the situation. And the "How Come He Don't Want Me, Man" speech, I can't tell you how many times I've seen it. It makes me cry every single time. It's so well written and acted, I just can't resist. It's so heartbreaking, but Uncle Phil's hug at the end finally makes us feel safe. Will also does something similar to Lou. He uses his charm and humor to disarm and downplay the whole thing. Realize to Will, these things aren't just character traits, but actually defense mechanisms. It's kind of like that "it's not your fault" scene in Good Will Hunting when Robin Williams' character, I can never remember his name, repeats the phrase "it's not your fault" to Matt Damon's character, also coincidentally named Will. We get to see Will break through every single one of his barriers, humor, anger, everything, until he just breaks down. The exact same thing happens to Will in The Fresh Prince. He makes jokes, he smiles, but then he gets angry and he finally breaks down. when you consider it from this angle, it makes you reconsider how you see Will utilize humor in every other instance of the show. Like I said, I don't want this to go on too long, but I just need to talk about it. I encourage you to watch the episode very closely and understand it. It's a great piece of media.